Creo is not just another company. With Project Resolve, we are building the path to the future. Follow us into a new era, a utopia for all mankind. With every launch, we're healing our planet, restoring its natural shield. A return to the green world we remember, where our children can once more play in the sun. Resolve is not only revitalizing the Earth, but its people too. We've all dreamed of it, and now Creo is making it a reality. Together, we're strong. Together, we can make a change. Unleash your potential with us.
So I've just finished The Surge and I want to talk about it. As with any other game, I'm going to divide this video into positive side and negative side, and I'm going to start right up with the negative sides. Now, first of all, I just want to make it clear that The Surge is a very Dark Souls-ish kind of game. This company has been basically ripping off Dark Souls pretty much for their entire existence. Lords of the Fallen was this way, and The Surge is not different. Now, Dark Souls has started a new genre of kind of games, difficult games with a very complex combat system. And I don't mind other creators making games like that. I just don't think personally The Surge worked out so well, but I'll get to that a little bit later in detail. Now, the first thing I want to mention in terms of negatives is the fact that the game, for some reason, is very buggy when it comes to playing on the PC with a gamepad. If you do want to do it, you're going to have a lot of trouble. I actually was Googling, and it seems that a lot of people had this. And one of the weird things was, as I would play with the gamepad, the game would run really smoothly as normally and everything. And suddenly the game's frame rate would just drop into crazy. It would go into the single digits. And then I would have to press anything on my keyboard so that the game registers that, switches to keyboard basically temporarily. And then it will run again simply normally as it should be. Without any kind of problems for a while. Let's call it 5, 10, 15 minutes, and then it's going to go crazy again. And unfortunately, this was happening too often for my taste, so I decided that I'm just going to omit the gamepad, which sucks because Souls games are best played with a gamepad. I'm personally using my PlayStation 3 gamepad with the software on my computer, so that the computer thinks it's a Xbox gamepad. I just don't have an Xbox gamepad, so I'm cheating it with a PS3 gamepad. But in this particular instance, due to this bug, I was unable to do it. And another bug that I found out was a sound bug. For some reason, one NPC would constantly ask me to help him, even though I just helped him. So while I was talking to him about other stuff, he would continue to occasionally mention how he wants help and I should help him, etc. Just listen for yourself.
Please, man, I'm trapped. I got separated from my crew, but I thought, Hobbs, don't give up now. You can make it. And that's when... Please, man!
What's your plan?
Please, man! I'm gonna get my ass out of here before it gets smashed like a bug on a windshield. Think I'll head up to Ops. Should be alright. Over here! Hurry!
Guess you've got no idea what's going on around here.
Just a jump start, man. Felt like my brain was an egg on a griddle and then the yolk popped. Woke up, head ring. Please, man, I'm trapped. What I've seen since then. Man, you wouldn't believe it. Come on, don't let me down.
What's the deal with these failsafe consoles?
Creo's got a few around the factory to monitor problems and record. Hey, buddy, there's sure to be some crazy stuff on them with all that's going down. And check them out if you want, but my adventuring days are done. Come on, don't let me down.
So long, Hobbs.
Stay safe, man. Stay safe. Hey, buddy, thanks again. You totally saved my ass back there. Please, man.
Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to address here is that the game is really trying to kill you a lot, and it's partially trying to do it in cheap ways. So you will notice that the levels are with a lot of places you can drop off from. It doesn't seem like that at first, but the more you go, you're going to be fighting on higher places with little space oftentimes. It's going to try to push you off ledges and to kill you in this way. Now, this is a very cheap way to kill the player. For me personally, I get very angry from that, and I don't think that it was a good idea. But apparently, I've actually read that people have been complaining that simply Lords of the Fallen was too much of an easy game. It was not hard enough. It was not as hard as Dark Souls. I personally played Lord of the Fallen, and it clearly was not as hard as some of Dark Souls parts. But it was fun. I enjoyed it, and I felt like it was right in the sweet spot. It wasn't too hard. It wasn't too easy. This one, however, feels very hard. It feels frustratingly so. It's going to use cheap tricks. There are some hidden openings in the ground where you're basically forced into a fight, and suddenly as you fight, you're gonna drop down because this thing was almost impossible to notice. So this is a place where obviously the developers thought it would be cool to just hide a cheap diff, and they do that a few times. That's very annoying, and I don't like it at all. Another things that I really hate is the fact that the levels in this game are essentially mazes. They are extremely confusing. You're going to be playing it at some point, and you gotta imagine this game is extremely cryptic. So while it's plagiarizing Dark Souls, it's plagiarizing good and bad, but I'll get to that. In any point, you will be probably confused as to what you have to do next most of the time, and you'll be walking around wasting your time trying to find out just by chance where the next step is. And that can be very, very frustrating, especially considering that the levels are such mazes. You know, in games like Dark Souls, for example, and Bloodborne, when you open a shortcut, you have a pretty good idea as to where that shortcut's leading and how to access that shortcut. Well, in this game, most of the time, I would open a shortcut and I would have a hard time figuring out how to get to it again after I've died. I don't really know where it opened to, I don't really know how to access it. It's not always the case, but very often, so that frustrated me a lot. The enemies in this game are very hard. The game doesn't have many bosses because it's really concentrated on the normal enemies, and they start off as being hard but manageable, and then you get more annoying and difficult enemies, and then by the end of the game it's crazy. You have one hit kill enemies, but even the weakest enemies can kill you with 1-2 hits in any case. But okay, that's something that was typical for Dark Souls 2, and I'm sorry for mentioning Dark Souls so many times, but this game has essentially copied it in many ways. It is obviously their inspiration, and it feels like you have to compare it to Dark Souls because they straight out took so much from it. The fighting system is pretty much one-to-one taken over. Everything is pretty much the same, even the backstabs, although the backstabs work a little bit different here, but anything you can really think of that is Dark Souls-ish, you get in this game as well, including its weaknesses, including the lack of a good story, the lack of good storytelling. In the combat, you have the multitude of problems that the Dark Souls games had. You have them here too, and partially it's even worse because the levels are smaller, so you might actually end up fighting several enemies at the same time, and they will gang up on you and mess you up. I was gonna say something profane, but I stopped myself in time. But in any case, so they took too much of it, and that really feels sad to me. Lords of the Fallen was not that much of a copy. Also, you have to consider something else. This game is in the future. These guys are fighting in the future with melee weapons, all of them. You got all these futuristic, well, I'll call them swords and stuff and spears, but they obviously aren't really that, but you know, it's not believable to me whatsoever. And obviously they couldn't bring out guns, which by the way would have been the logical thing, because then how can they use the Dark Souls gameplay to do this? They can't do that. So they have to give you a futuristic setting, but at the same time that futuristic setting is going to use pretty much medieval fighting techniques. So for me personally, that was something that was just annoying. It felt like the game doesn't have its own personality. It was just trying to be like the cool kid, so to speak of. And of course, when you look at someone who's just emulating another person, it feels like it's incomplete, like it's not done well. No matter how good it's done, you can only be as good as the one you're copying. You can never surpass him if you don't try something different. And of course, they won't surpass it, and they didn't here. I honestly, Lords of the Fallen was more fun to me and more interesting, especially because the levels were more interesting. It was kind of a medieval magical setting, and you know, that was good for me. I liked it. It had its own flair. This game is basically Dark Souls combined with Dead Space, but not that scary, you know. And they, of course, when you die, you drop all your resources and you gotta go get them. But unlike other games where, you know, like Dark Souls, where you have infinite amount of time to get them, here they give you a time limit as well. So they want to pressure you additionally. And that's the thing that I've noticed is like a theme. They were like, let's make Dark Souls in the future, but make it harder. Because this game is actually harder than Dark Souls. I played the shit out of Dark Souls 3. I beat it 8 or 9 times. I've forgotten already, but a lot of times, one of the two in any case. And it was hard. It was really hard. And as you get better, it gets easier, of course. But it was never this hard the first time around. I remember that. And that sucked. I don't like that here. It's too hard, this one. No difficulty settings are available. You can't actually change. So if you feel like it's too hard, you can go on an easier setting. I want to be honest with you guys. I am not that good a player. I don't play games very well. I get frustrated easily. I get pissed when I start dying, then I play even worse. And I want to play. For example, I've decided, okay, I have 3 hours now. I want to sit down and play 3 hours. But if I get too angry within an hour and a half and I'm stuck in one place and it gets worse and worse, there's no point for me. I have to stop. And when a game prevents you from, you know, enjoying it for the time you have decided to play, that is not good design. At least not for me. That's why we have difficulty settings. And I know what most of you are gonna say, well, then don't play this game. Well, yeah, but I kind of thought that this won't be harder than Dark Souls, goddammit. Lords of the Fallen was easier, so I assume this will be too. I generally enjoy the Dark Souls systems, and I think they work really well. They're fun if played properly and if played with patience. But this game really, I almost didn't finish it, so I'll tell you that. So, we have lock on by force. Basically, as soon as you, especially with boss battles, that was a huge problem, because when you're fighting and as soon as you get hit, your character will lock on to something, and even if you don't want to be locked on, he will do that from time to time, and that was frustrating to me. I did not like it. I cannot also stop my animations. That's another thing that's taken straight out from Dark Souls. They take over their problems as well. They didn't even improve the system where it was obvious. So if I'm mid animation of an attack, I can do nothing, and just like in Dark Souls, you have a double input. Double input is what essentially when you press for example, you press the attack button twice, and your character is doing his first slash, and he's supposed to slash one more time after that. Basically, the game is gonna queue up the second order, and you cannot press a third. You cannot cancel that second order even before it's been executed. Just to explain it better, you press, let's say, on a gamepad X twice, so that's gonna be your light attack. So your character does the first light attack, and in the middle of the first light attack, you see that you're gonna take damage. So instead of being able to at least cancel the second attack because you pressed twice, you can't. You can do nothing. Your character is gonna strike once, he's gonna strike a second time, and then you're gonna have control of him. And in that time, it doesn't matter if you get hit a million times. You have two inputs and you gotta commit to them. If you choose to make two light attacks to whatever attacks, that's gonna happen. You can't do anything against it. Press it twice, you're fucked. And that is something that, of course, in Dark Souls was super infuriating, because I can partially understand that if you have like a super heavy weapon and you can't just stop mid-strike, but then you have super light weapons where you do like really fast slashes and stuff. And even then you can't cancel it, and that's not good game design. Now, the end game. In the end game here, you have to switch to light, fast weapons. If you want to have a chance, that was my conclusion. I cannot imagine anyone being able to do well right at the end game with heavy weapons. And that is bad because you have weapon proficiency. So if you've been using heavy weapons all game, you suddenly have to switch to light weapon. That sucks for you. Not to mention if you've been upgrading a weapon and stuff, fuck you. The enemies at the end of the game are super fast. They do a monstrous amount of damage. And as you're trying to swing with slow weapons, they're gonna mess you up. So your only good option is to switch to fast weapons as well. They will drop you fast weapons too, so it's cool. You gotta switch to fast weapons, and you gotta fight them fire with fire, basically. And that is bad because the game locks you into display mode. It says no matter how you play it out, at the end you gotta switch to fast weapons, or you can kiss your life goodbye. And the game is really hard. Like I said, the bosses, especially the later ones, and you don't have many, so after the first boss, basically the next ones are really hard multi-stage bosses, and it's so frustrating. It's just so annoying and infuriating, and the game just you know, not having difficulty setting and stuff, if you're bad like me, you're gonna be fighting these bosses over and over until you finally manage to beat it. Only your stubbornness will help you here. That's how it was for me, at least. If you're a good player, I guess it won't be this way, but I'm not, so I can't judge. Alright, so another thing that I don't like is that there is no real leveling. So this is an RPG action game, kind of. You do have equipments and stuff. You upgrade equipments, you have different attacks. Just as Dark Souls is also an RPG, but here you don't really level up. Like, you do level up your power core, but that just basically enables you to unlock higher level doors, and it enables you to have more slots where you can put these effects, which are kind of like skills, but you know, more lame. I don't know how else to explain it. I don't want to go into too much detail, don't want to waste too much time with this specific part, but leveling up is not satisfying, that's what I'm saying. So I don't like that. The story, as I've mentioned, is not good. The story is bad, between bad and almost non-existent. The game does not bother to tell you. That's yet another thing that they took from Dark Souls and they implemented it here, and I'm really confused. If you're going to copy something, why would you copy the good and the bad? I mean, the terrible story in Dark Souls is no secret. Yes, people are gonna tell you, oh man, there's so much stories. You have to dig into item descriptions. You have to really dig deep. You have to inform yourself. That is not well delivered. That is not good enough for me. If you're gonna give me a story, give me the story in a way that I don't have to sit and work for. I'm already working to play the goddamn game. I'm not gonna sit down and become a fucking Dark Souls scholar. And I sure as hell I'm not gonna do that for the Surge either. And that is one of the biggest problems. They probably thought it's mysterious, okay? You have, on one end, you have the Japanese guys, you know, from Software, and they're doing their thing, and the Japanese have always been weird. I don't like it, but you know, you can't stop it. They were the pioneers in this particular way of the game. They took a lot of risk doing this, okay? They were like, we're gonna fuck the player hard and see what happens. Is he gonna like it or is he gonna hate it? They could have went bankrupt with this decision with Demon's Souls. But these guys now, who are making this game, they are stealing a recipe which has proven to be successful. People like it. It's good. There's no risk for them. So they might as well risk a little bit by at least trying to improve what they think might be better of it. And maybe some of you think that they assume that this is a better way of storytelling. Alright, you know, if you think that's the case, fine, I won't argue it. But for me, this is bad storytelling. If I play through the whole game and at the end of the game I have to watch, you know, I have to read stuff on the internet and stuff about what the hell just happened, that is not good storytelling for me. And the story, while you know, being so lame and stuff, there are a few things that I would call are probably supposed to be plot twists that you can see coming from a kilometer. They're so obvious, so that's not gonna shock anyone at all when it happens. I'm not gonna spoil anything here, but I'm just saying that the one thing that you're supposed to get, you get on your own without the story. You know, the story just fails in that aspect as well. Warren, the character who you're playing as, has no personality, sadly. He has nothing. He doesn't question any of what's happening. He doesn't show emotions. He just entered in his first working day and shit is going down. Shit is going down bad. And the poor bastard is like, alright, you know, I'm gonna kick ass. What else can I do? He meets people. He doesn't seem too shocked. People are not giving him any proper information. He's like, alright, let's do it. You know, this is all very weird. I hate it when the protagonist is just acting like a puppet. He's supposed to do this because it's the game. Don't ask too many questions, you know, that's how they want you as a player to think, and that's how they want Warren to act as well, you know, he's not supposed to ask too many questions, because then the player might start doing that, and we don't want that. If they start asking questions, they're gonna see that we don't have answers for most of them, and that's not good. So Warren, unfortunately, while the voice acting is really good, he's showing no proper emotions, he's showing no interest, he's being pretty indifferent and cool about all of this. And I mean, this goes on several levels. So, and when I say levels, I mean several levels of his character, not several game levels. So that's something that I was not happy with. There is, like I said, the weapons in this game are melee weapons, which is weird. And the last point that is negative that I want to address here, which is not so important, but at the same time, the fact that the music, the soundtrack is absolutely boring. I actually cannot remember it now that I think about it. I just stopped playing half an hour ago. Just, you know, drank a little bit of water and relaxed a little bit before I started working on the video. And I just realized that I can't think of a single melody from this game. Nothing. It's so boring, you're not even gonna realize it's there. If anyone thinks the soundtrack is awesome, that person has very wide range for what's good. So those were the bad things. I'm gonna move into the good things because it's taking me longer than I wanted. I actually wanted this to be a shorter review, but it is going to be shorter ultimately. So the next point that I'm gonna talk about is the first good point, and that is something that I actually really liked about it. The game has a strong beginning. You're basically a handicapped guy, Warren, and in the future they have developed a way to enable you to work, to be a productive member of society, and to give you the chance to walk. Of course, there's more to it. The future is not looking very good. Resources are depleted, overpopulation, etc. But I'm not gonna go into that detail. The game doesn't do much of a job about it, and I sure as hell am not gonna do about it as well. But what you need to know is that Warren goes to his first working day, and he needs to be operated on. They need to attach some machinery to his body in order to enable him to work, etc. And it is super cool how they make it, because for some reason the machines malfunction because the surgery is done completely by robots. There are no human beings involved. So while he's restrained there, it's supposed to sedate him. It doesn't do it, and Warren's like, oh no, when the machine's like, all right, sedation complete, proceeding with surgery, and Warren, you can see in his eyes that he knows this is not gonna be good, and the surgery is super brutal. I'm gonna show it to you in a moment. It's right at the start of the game, so I'm not really spoiling anything. If you start the game, this is basically your intro. But what I don't get here is why exactly these metal parts are being placed right on top of his clothes. Why is he gonna be operated with clothes? They don't even remove them. How is he supposed to, I'm asking a lot of questions. I know I agree with you, but how is he supposed to take a shower? How is he supposed to take off his clothes? Are they expecting that he's just gonna be wearing these clothes through the rest of his life without cleaning or something? I know there are a lot of other questions that are more important, but that's just weird to me, so I wanted to address it. In any case, take a look at this cool surgery and we'll continue after that. Here it goes.
Rig installation program running. Program complete. Patient sedated. Initiating surgery. Implanting neural link.
Alright, so the next positive thing that I'm gonna mention is something that comes from Dark Souls again, is the shortcuts. The maps are complex, they're mazes. You got mazes, I hate mazes, so that's not a good thing. But I said I'm gonna talk about the good things here. You have shortcuts, so you're gonna open a shortcut and you can use it to get to other places fast. And once you learn where it is and what it does, where it takes you, it's actually not a bad thing at all. But at first it is, because you have no idea what the fuck, you just opened where it leads to, because everything looks the same, especially at the beginning. Most maps at the start look pretty much the same. The next thing that I want to address is that the fighting system works really well. You feel in control. That the opponents are very strong, but if you master it, which I haven't, but if you do, because I know it can be done, you're gonna get really good at it and you're gonna kick a lot of ass. The system works really well, and it's basically a stolen from Dark Souls, and that system really does work very well, so there's nothing to worry about there. But the one thing that I really love about it are the finishers. These finishers just look so badass. They look great, and I think that they add to the game. I never got boring of seeing them, so that's a great thing. Another thing that I mentioned briefly earlier, but I'm gonna mention it again because it's actually a plus, is like the character voice acting is good. Also, the other characters have good voice acting, so that's pretty nice. You also talk to different characters, so unlike Dark Souls where you create a character and he's utterly just a puppet, Warren is pre-created. You can't modify his appearance, you can't modify his sex. You're having this dude and you're playing as him, and he has his own voice. He doesn't have a personality that you gotta project your own, I guess, but he does speak, so that is very cool. And I like that. I prefer that a million times. And I prefer it 100 million times, you know, over a silent protagonist to begin with. So that is good. And I like that the weapons are divided in classes, and the weapons are pretty cool. They also work very cool, and they feel very differently. But when you play a different weapon class, you're gonna notice that it has particular strengths and weaknesses, and you're gonna have to decide which one appeals to you the most. But that was pretty cool. I like that. And the last point that I want to address, and there's certainly probably more points that are positive, but honestly it's going to be very general and it's going to be very Dark Souls-ish. So the last point that I want to address as positive is the fact that the bosses, when you kill a boss, they drop a unique weapon which is special, especially related to the boss. So that is pretty nice. I really approve of that. It felt good, and you know, I was always curious what the next boss is going to give me. One of the biggest motivations for me to actually manage to kill these things and see what the weapon's going to be like. Now, before I end this review, I want to talk about the game in general, you know, and tell you whether or not I think you should get it. Well, this game was a roller coaster ride for me. I started hyped for it. I thought it's gonna be cool, and right at the start of the game I noticed that just, you know, the setting and everything doesn't feel right. It feels cryptic, it feels boring. I had this problem with the gamepad at first, which pissed me off quite a bit. So that is pretty bad. Now what is good is that once you get rid of the gamepad, the game works flawlessly. And I forgot to mention this, you know, you have very high frame rates on maximum settings. I was easily going 80 to 90 frames, and I have a mid-range PC. You have pretty much no crashes. I think the only time the game crashed on me was actually while I was doing the gamepad, so it was probably that. And I gotta tell you that sometimes I was alt-tabbing to check an email or something during gameplay, and I never had problems. And some games really go crazy once you alt-tab and go back to Windows and then switch back to the game. Games don't like to be minimized. Sometimes I would stop and just get a phone call or something, and then I wouldn't feel like playing, and while the game is in the background I would start videos and stuff and watch something, eat something, whatnot. The game afterwards I would start up, it would run just as well, so that the performance of the game is stellar. I really have to congratulate them for that. But the question is, should you get it? Is this a good thing for you? Well, personally, I liked it at the beginning, then suddenly I didn't like it, and then from there, it got a little bit better in the middle of the game, sort of, and then it got worse. And by the end of the game, I was just wondering when the hell it's going to finally end, because I do like to finish the games. I mean, I spent money on it. I just feel terrible not being able to finish it, and especially for the review, I want to see if there is something that might redeem the game. It's not impossible that it has a super awesome ending or just a final sequence that's really cool, or the story unveils finally and makes sense for me, but none of that really happens. None of that happens. So if you're a person who really enjoyed Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Lords of the Fallen perhaps you've played, and you were thinking to yourself, none of these games was hard enough, this will be a game that will challenge you. If you can swallow the fact that you'll be playing in these fucking mazes, and at times I was wondering if I'm playing Doom 2 or not, trying to find ways to unlock certain doors and stuff in order to advance, getting totally confused what to do. If you can handle that, you will enjoy the game probably. Ultimately, I did not like it. I gotta be honest with you. My review of this game is actually more negative than positive. The game is not terrible. It runs really well. It looks good. And it has some redeeming qualities, but the negatives outweigh the positives for me so much that it's just not worth to recommend. So I'm actually not going to recommend it. If you're going to really get it, I suggest you just wait for the price to drop. I'm strongly suspect it's going to drop really fast because of this. You know, I don't know how the other reviewers are doing, but I just ripped it a new one, and I think that all of this might also have some effect on the game's sales. And while I do want to support this company, they're doing something, you know, while it's not very original, like I said, Lords of the Fallen was very cool. This one in space, that was kind of an interesting idea. For me, it didn't work out at all. But if they were to do something more like Lords of the Fallen, I would actually give it a try again, and I would probably like it because I enjoyed Lords of the Fallen immensely. So I would like to thank you for watching my review. I hope you've enjoyed it, and take a look at the other videos. That'd be pretty cool. And don't forget that, you know, I usually don't beg, but this one time I'm gonna make an exception. So I'm gonna beg all of you to click like on this video. And if you've already clicked like before you even finished watching the video, which is never gonna happen, thank you in advance. In any case, have a great day and thanks for watching.